It all began with a birthday present. A little boy experimenting with his first chemistry set and falling under the spell of science. The boy from back then is now 67 years old and might be an upcoming Nobel laureate. Robert Langer has developed something that decides between life and death. But first things first.
Here we go. When I was about 11 years old, my parents got me what was called this Gilbert chemistry set, and I loved it. They'd have different chemicals, and I would like mixing them together to watch colors change, and I'd make rubber and ice cream, all kinds of things like that. So I had a little lab we set up in our basement, and I remember my friends would come over and we'd play with chemicals.
For young Robert, chemistry was magic. He wanted to use that magic for something useful. He wanted to help people. The first idea how to do that occurred to Robert Langer nearly 2 decades later in 1974.
I was working at Children's Hospital and later at MIT. One day, a young neurosurgeon came to see me looking for a better way to deliver anti-cancer drugs to brain tumors. And we thought about local chemotherapy. And I thought chemistry could help.
Robert Langer's chemistry could indeed help. The only question was, how? The approach taken by the young process chemist was simple and effective. The medicine had to go where it was actually needed, and in the exact amount needed. So far, people have tried to remove brain tumors with surgery. The dangerous tissue is simply cut out. The operation poses a great danger of injury to the brain. So Langer looked for a gentler way of administering medicine.
And the idea is that the neurosurgeon would operate on the patient like they do anyhow. And then what they do is, as the brain was open, they'd put these little wafers in, and the wafers would locally deliver the drug right to the tumor. So you get high concentrations in the brain where you want it to be, and low concentrations in the rest of the body where it might have caused harm.
So far, physicians have administered chemotherapy by syringe or tablet. That means the drug travels a long way through the body before it reaches its destination, and on the way there, it already starts to lose potency. And unwanted side effects occur when the drug starts reacting to locations in the body it was not intended for. Robert Langer's wafers, however, are millimeter-thin semiconductor wafers. They're not rejected by the body since they're made of biocompatible material. A wafer can be equipped with a medical drug that fights cancer tissue, and it can be implanted at the actual location of the tumor. So Langer's wafer is a means of transport for medicine. But it can do even more than that. The number of molecules it releases can be controlled. The wafers are designed not to release all the active agent at once. They do it little by little, which is actually ideal for long-term chemotherapy. However, most scientists thought Langer's approach was science fiction.
1976, I got asked for the first time in my life to give a major scientific talk. And so I practiced this talk for weeks. And I was I was much younger then. And I was giving this talk to a very distinguished audience of polymer chemists and engineers. So I got up and I gave the talk, and I thought at the end of it I did all right, because I didn't forget too much what I was going to say. I didn't stammer too much. So I thought when I was done with this talk that all these older scientists, being nice people, would want to encourage me, this young guy. But when I got up and I explained how we did all of this work, a number of them came up to me afterwards and said, "We don't believe anything you just said."
Robert Langer was ahead of his time. His research funding applications were all rejected. It was only in 1996, 22 years later, that his invention finally led to an approved drug. Today, the young Robert is a sought-after researcher who's fundamentally changed the way in which medicine is administered. Today, his laboratory develops polymers, which can accommodate up to 9 different medications. At the appropriate temperature, they are gradually released in the body, and they can even be controlled via microchips. The applications for his biocompatible polymers seem limitless.
We're working on this that we'll actually be able to, from scratch, create new tissues and organs. So we're actually now creating plastics combined with cells, including stem cells, that could make new skin, new spinal cords. Well, my vision for the future will be able to deliver drugs right where you want them. We'll even be able to do remote control drug delivery, but we'll also be able to do things like make new tissues and organs and make many new drugs.
Today, Robert Langer is a star of medical research. His ideas are no longer being rejected. They're changing the world. It is estimated that so far, 2 billion people have come into contact with the technology that he and his team developed. And it all began in a cellar, with a child's urge to explore, a chemistry set, and the magic of chemistry.